Friday, December 11th. First, we have the minutes from November 13th, 2020. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Next on the agenda, we have the determinations, and Jim McMullen, since I recused myself from the first one, Jim McMullen will be the first determination.
Okay.
Jim, if I could this is Joe Rose, just want to state for the record that the attorney for the applicant has represented me on a personal matter in the past, not currently on any matter, and I see no conflict, but I just wanted to state it for the record.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that. In the application of Frederick A. Terry Jr., 97 Briar Patch Road, Suffolk County Tax Map number 301-12-4-18.1 to legalize accessory improvements and landscaping is approved.
Mr. McMullen?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Yes.
Mr. Rose?
Yes.
Mr. Barris?
Yes.
Okay, I'll read the next determination. In the application of 7 West End Road LLC, 7 West End Road, Suffolk County Tax Map number 301-15-4-7 to make alterations to a legally pre-existing non-conforming building and decking is approved.
Mr. McGurk?
Yes.
Mr. McMullen?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Yes.
Mr. Rose?
Abstain.
We have 3 adjournments to January 8th, 2021. We have 64 West WE Acquisition LLC. We have Gary M. Kravitz, 2 Baiting Hollow Road. And we have the Maidstone premises of Lexington Lounge LLC, 207 Main Street. We don't need a motion or anything on that, right, Pam?
Beth, motion? Do you want them to do a motion?
Do we need one?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'll make a motion.
second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, thank you. So now we have the new hearings on these. Ms. Bennett.
Application of Brian Bigos, Suffolk County Tax Map number 301-1517 for area variances from Chapter 278 zoning to construct a patio and install a liquid propane LP tank. A 3.5-foot variance is requested from Section 278-385 to construct a patio 7.5 feet from the rear yard lot line where the required setback is 10 feet. A 7-foot variance is requested from Section 278-3A5 to install a liquid propane tank 3 feet from the side yard lot line where the required setback is 10 feet. A variance is requested from Section 278-3A9 to permit 2,604 square feet of coverage where a prior zoning board determination granted a variance allowing 2,547 square feet of coverage. The maximum permitted coverage allowed by zoning is 2,269 square feet. The subject property is 8,846 square feet in lot area and is located at 20 Stratton Square in Residence District R40. This project is classified as a Type 2 action in accordance with SEQA.
Do we have the applicant?
Yes, it's Lori Wiltshire on behalf of Brian Bigos.
Lori, we have a new, we got to swear you in now. That's what we're doing. So
Yes.
State your name and address for the record.
Lori Wiltshire, 231 Pantico Road, East Hampton, New York, 11937.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
okay. Thanks, Lori.
So the application is for variances to construct a 12 by 14 square foot stone paver pool patio and to install a 100-gallon propane tank for the pool heater. A rear yard setback variance of 3.5 feet is required to install the patio 7.5 feet from the rear yard, and a 7-foot side yard setback variance is required for a propane tank 3 feet from the easterly side yard. and a 57-foot variance is required, or an additional 75-foot variance is required to permit 2,604 square feet of coverage, where 2,547 square feet of coverage was previously approved. So in this instance, the total lot coverage variance would be 335 square feet. That's from what's legal to what we're requesting today. So 335-foot total lot coverage variance. As you recall, in 2018, a rear yard variance was granted for the 12 by 20 foot pool, and the variance was granted to allow the initial coverage variance. The variances requested today are due to the location of the pre-existing non-conforming residence, the approved pool location, and the size of the lot. Granting the requested variances to perform this work will not create an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties. The proposed stone paver patio will only be 168 square feet, and the approval of that patio will prevent dirt and clippings from getting into the pool, also giving a proper footing for chaise lounges. The proposed tank is a small 100-gallon tank, only 2 feet in diameter, and is needed to heat the pool. It's also tucked away on the southeast side of the property near vegetation and fencing. This parcel is rather unique in that it abuts a vacant drainage area owned by the village to the southeast, where the propane tank is, and a commercial parking lot to the southwest, which is where the patio is proposed. There are hedges and fencing on all sides of this property, and most particularly on the westerly side, where the only neighbor to this property resides. On this side, there's a 6-foot stockade fence and a hedge. The granting of these variances is in keeping with the character of the neighborhood and will have no adverse impact on neighboring parcels at all. Because this lot is severely undersized at 8,846 square feet in an R40 zoning district, there are no conforming locations for the patio, and there is no other way to achieve the benefits sought other than the requested variances. The Bigos family took care to request a very small pool paver patio and to situate it as far as practicable from the rear yard line and no closer to that line than the swimming pool itself, which was already granted relief. While some of the requested variances appear substantial, this is due to the location of the improvements and the small lot size and should not preclude the variances requested. There will also be no adverse impacts on the environment or physical conditions of the neighborhood. There are no nearby wetlands or other protected natural features, and the proposed project itself is environmentally benign. Given the location of the existing improvements on the property and the very small size of the lot, the alleged difficulty is not self-created, and there is no alternative method to obtain the benefit sought herein without granting the requested relief. The variances requested are the minimum necessary, and the granting will have no detrimental impact on the neighborhood.
Billy or Beth, I believe we don't need we can't give the variance for the tank, right? It's not in our jurisdiction, the propane tank?
Well, the propane tank doesn't comply with the New York State Building Code, so the applicant would be required to get a variance from the New York State Building Code to position it 3 feet off the property line. But the building department takes the position that they have to meet zoning setbacks as well. So I guess the applicant is seeking a zoning variance from the zoning board for the tank. But in addition to which, they'd have to obtain a variance from the New York State Building Code.
I have a question for you, Billy. On the paperwork that we've been able to obtain, it seems that you need a variance from the state if the tank's over 125 gallons, and this is only 100 gallons.
Okay, I'm going off of the turn down letter that was prepared by the building department. So maybe they weren't aware of how big or small the tank was when you.
We did not see that letter. I've not seen that letter. So unfortunately, I have not had the opportunity to respond to it. But I do believe there are 2 tanks in the field right now, and that may be their objection. One of them will be removed.
I don't know about that. I had email communications with your office who seemed to concede that, though, that they needed a state variance. So
well, then we looked into it and sent a subsequent email that it was only a 100-gallon tank.
Oh, okay. We'd have to circle back with the zoning board. I mean, with the building department, but regardless, I mean, the request, what I'm trying to say here, the request is to the zoning board for a variance for, because the building department says it has to meet the zoning setbacks. So.
Correct. So it's just a side yard setback variance from the zoning board.
Yep.
Can I ask a question? Is that something that they need to, if they have to go and get a permit from the state, is that something they need to obtain before we act on this?
Not sure. I'm looking at the letter from Kentawi, August 25th, 2020. And it says the proposed LP tank doesn't meet the minimum, this is the turn down letter, minimum side yard setback, but it cites the fire code. It doesn't cite the village code.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? In terms of what is the code requirements for a tank location, whether it's 100 feet or 120 feet? Are there any fire or building code?
I would have to ask Kenny about that, but I mean, he's not saying that their turn down letter doesn't say that it's not meeting village code. It's saying that it doesn't meet the fire code.
That's the New York State fire code.
Right. So I don't think so he's not citing a specific village code that you would need a variance from, is what I'm saying.
But if we have to meet the side yard setback, we don't. So we do need that relief.
In the past, they have taken the position that they have to meet accessory structure setbacks, and here it would be 10 feet.
Okay. We need to clarify that, obviously. Okay.
Yes.
Any neighbors wish to be heard on this application before we talk about it?
There are currently no callers on the line.
Okay. Jim McMullen, you want to take us away on this, or?
Yeah. I did get some history on this application also, and it appears that back in mid 2018, the applicant did apply for a patio along with the pool, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe it did say that at some point the drawings were amended, and I'm not sure because I wasn't sitting on the board then, but it appears that the board was not in favor of a patio as well as the pool. And I kind of stand by that decision, even though the code has changed over time, and maybe the square footages that are allowed and have changed. I just still feel that we should stick to what was determined a little over 2 years ago. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add to that.
Jim, I have a question. Craig Humphrey.
Yes.
You're talking about the patio that's basically the slabs that are added one by one like a checkerboard.
Correct. Yeah, it says they're 12 by 14
Yeah.
checkerboard. Yeah.
Well, that confirms. I talked to a renter of the house, and he was helping the owner of the place take all those things off, and that might have been in June of 2018. So this has been here, gone, and back, right?
And applying again for, yes.
Yeah, right. Okay. Thanks for your research.
Sure. Does anybody else have anything to add?
No, it was from September 14th, 2018 was the determination on
And that was turned down?
it was turned down.
Okay.
Specifically, I mean, the application was dealt with and addressed by this board 2 years ago on this very issue, and the condition for the approval of the swimming pool was the removal of the proposed patio deck. It was not.
Yes.
I also agree that we should stand by the prior board's determination. And regardless of the propane tank, I'm assuming it's going to be above ground, there is a conforming location where it could be located.
It certainly seems that way, barring any code constraint. I think we need more information in order, at least I would.
Yeah, the propane tank's going underneath the ground, right, Lori?
No, it's above ground.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't be in favor of the propane tank above ground. So, anybody else would like to be heard?
That's all I have.
Okay. Motion to close we close the hearing now, right, Pam?
Yes.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We'll move on to the next hearing. Ms. Bennett?
Mhm. Application of Emery G. and Linda Gunnell, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 3018318 for area variances from Chapter 278 zoning to construct pool equipment, AC condenser units, outdoor shower, and generator. An 18.2-foot variance is requested from Section 278-385C to construct swimming pool equipment 1.8 feet from the side yard lot line where the required setback is 20 feet. Variances of 8 feet and 7.8 feet are requested from Section 278-3A5B to install 2 AC condenser units, 2 feet and 2.2 feet from the side yard lot line where the required setbacks are 10 feet. Variances of 5.1 feet and 5.8 feet are requested from Section 278-3A5B to construct an outdoor shower 4.9 feet and 4.2 feet from the side and rear yard lot lines where the required setbacks are 10 feet. Variances of 21 feet and 4.7 feet are requested from Sections 278-3A5A and B to construct a generator 14 feet from the front yard lot line where 5.3 feet from the side yard lot line are the required front yard setback is 35 feet and the required side yard setback is 10 feet and any other relief necessary. The subject property is 16,111 square feet in area and is located at 149 Main Street with frontage on Dayton Lane. This property is located in Residence District R80 and the project is classified as a type 2 action in accordance with SEQA.
Is the applicant present?
Yes.
Let me
Ed Krug.
swear you in.
Yes.
Let's weigh in. Go ahead, Pam.
State your name and address.
Ed Krug, 39 Isle of Wight Road, East Hampton, New York, 11937.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
The applicant is also on the line. If they choose to speak, do they need to be sworn in as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Do we?
We can do it. We can do it before they speak.
Okay. All right. Great. All right. Good. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for hearing this. So yes, as Pam said, we're really looking for setback relief for an outdoor shower, for a generator, for some air conditioning condensers and some pool equipment. This is a really interesting project. It's an historic house adjacent to the historic district. Very happily for those, my partner and I who are working on this project for the Gunnelps, the client is very interested in doing a very sort of modest and very respectful renovation of this house, maintaining the current footprint and the look and feel of the historic structure that was there. And that includes, providing some very much needed maintenance to a historic barn that's on the property as well. So I think our intentions and the client's intentions all along have really been to be neighborly and respectful and to, at the same time, make this a workable house for a young family at the same time. So it's a very constrained lot in many ways. One of the things that we added here was a swimming pool, which is really the only, thing that sort of changes the coverage issue in particular. But the pool equipment location was really a major consideration for us here. The best conforming location for the pool equipment would actually be much closer to the 19 Dayton Lane side of the house. There's very little room on the pool side itself, which is the side toward Main Street. It would really need to go tucked all the way into the farthest corner toward 19 Dayton Lane at the very edge of the pool setback.
It's some distance from the pool, which is slightly problematic, but it also, would put the equipment much closer to the neighbor. So in attempting to be neighborly about locating both that pool equipment and the air conditioning compressors and the generator as well, we tried to tuck them as much as possible into a sliver of space that adjoins the 1770 house property. We've talked to the people at 1770. They don't have any objections to it. It's a tiny sliver of yard that's really not utilized particularly. So, we feel that we really have, done the neighborly thing here, by attempting to tuck all of that into an out of the way corner that doesn't really impact any residences directly. The shower location is in I guess that would be the south northeast corner of the property. On that side of the barn would be, fenced in. Again, I've discussed the specific plans with Ms. Koval, the general manager of 1770 House. It would be fenced in with soundproof fencing. It's really meant to be just a shower for washing off after the beach, feet and that kind of thing. So that's really the extent of our application, is for setback relaxation on those particular items. So happy to answer any other questions that you have about what we're intending to do.
Okay, thanks, Ted. Just we do have 2 letters from the neighbors adjacent to the property, and I believe the one neighbor is really with a curb cut. And I just want to be very clear here, the ZBA has no jurisdiction over the curb cut. I believe it was the Department of Public Works that issues the curb cut. So I don't think his issue is with us on that particular part of the letter that he wrote.
Right.
I'll let Phil, Joe, you want to start this off? Joe Rose?
Yeah, I have a question about I don't understand why the shower is needed in that location. If it's just a thing to rinse off feet, why is there a need for a structure in so close to the, within the setback area, so close to the property line? And my question about the pool equipment and generator is recognizing that, I guess, a fully conforming location would be tighter, I guess, to some of the other properties. What about what's the constraint about pulling the equipment tighter to the house, moving it tighter to away from the property line and tighter to the house? I'm not sure.
Right. All right, well, starting with the shower question, I think the idea was that it would be, it could be tucked into that corner. It's a little bit of a sort of a traffic problem. There's a very sort of narrow passage between the barn and the house. That's another location where that shower might have gone, is on the western side of the barn, and it just felt sort of tight there to put it into that's one possible conforming location, but it felt like it was a little bit tight. So it felt like that was a little underutilized corner of the property. And, because of the existing hedging between the Historical Society and this property, our plans to put fencing between the 1770 house and this little pocket of property, it felt as though it was sort of the best location for it all around. In terms of the pool equipment, of course, that requires a 20-foot setback. So really we can, the house is at 22 feet, I believe. So pulling it closer to the house from the northern side is really not an option until you get all the way out toward the 19 Dayton Lane side of the property. Potentially the compressors could be pulled closer, but our feeling was, again, it would be advantageous for creating a nicer space for the homeowner to have a little bit of a side yard there to kind of pull them back if the pool equipment were going to be pulled back. It felt like one comprehensive area for all of that gear was appropriate. Does that make sense?
I understand. I guess and is the generator to be fully above ground on a base?
That was the plan, yes.
Phil, you have any?
I see the proposed pool on the survey. So you're going to put the pool in a conforming location and it's going to kind of be diagonal on one side. Is that correct? We're not going to
Right, that's to meet setback.
Okay, so we're not going to be looking at a variance request for that?
No.
At all.
No, but there's very little room there with the, with the patio and the setback requirements to put the pool equipment on that side.
Okay.
Besides which it would be kind of unsightly to have it right in the middle of that yard and patio area.
Yeah, but you're in the setback.
Pardon me?
Isn't the generator and all this in the setback now?
Yeah.
Jimmy, you have any comments?
The only thing I say is one thing I have about the proposed shower. I saw in the drawing it had a freestanding shower unit. I'm assuming there's some type of surround that's going around that. Is that plantings, or is it something you're not just going to shower in the middle of the yard next to the 1770 house?
Yeah, I don't think this is not going to be that kind of showering, right? But yes, there's a 6-foot fence, soundproofing material between 2 layers of stockade that goes there. Plus, it's going to be hedged in on the interior side as well. So planted and fenced. Yeah.
Okay, great. When it comes to the condensing units and stuff, I see where Joe is coming from, being very close to the property line. I don't know if you can maybe move them a little closer to the house. But also on that side, on the other side of that property line, there's really nothing there for the 1770 house. So it's really just the road. So I don't have a problem with that stuff.
Okay.
Thanks, Jimmy. I'd like to see the, I have no issue with it only because you're actually really up against a commercial use there at the 1770 house. I would like to see the generator move towards, down towards the condensing units and the equipment. Move it further down on the property. I don't have any issue with anything else on the plan myself.
Okay. All right. I think we can accommodate that.
Will that also be surrounded by landscaping too? So obviously you don't see anything from the 1770 house property? Yes,
it will. Yes, it will. It requires sort of 5 feet around it. But yeah, the idea is of open space, but yes, we intend to landscape around it.
Okay.
All right, so Billy, we want them to move the generator. What do we do here? Do we wait till they come back with a plan, or how do we move this?
Can I just make a comment? I'd like to see it come a little bit, because if you're going to surround it with plantings and and hedge it, etc., there's going to have to be a little bit more room between the property line and the equipment. So perhaps it could come just a tad bit. I guess it would be southwest. Drop it down.
Southwest or southeast?
Is it south? Yeah, southeast. I'm sorry.
Southeast. They bring it basically down, almost behind, not behind the 1770 cottage there, but it's. I don't think it's going to have any effect on anybody.
Okay. And to just come a little bit off the property line.
Yeah, no, we'd be happy to accommodate that. If you just can give us a little further direction on what you're looking for there, we'd be happy to. Is that something I should work out with the village planner, or?
I think it would probably be best to talk to Billy, and then Billy can reach us.
Can I ask a question about the noise of the generator? I mean, I know what the noise of a compressor unit is, but what's the noise profile of the kind of generator being?
Right. So it's a Kohler. It's a Kohler generator. As you know, with generators, they're only on when they need to be on, and once a week when they're being tested. I can provide the specifications for this one if you like. It's meant to be. It's promoted as one that is particularly quiet. I don't right in front of me have the decibel levels on it, but it is it's a it is a 20 RESC-L, which is Kohler's quietest generator unit.
Roughly, what is the size of the generator in length and height and width?
It's about 3 feet high, about 3.5 feet wide, and about 5 feet long.
Well, the letters, the size of the generator is one of the issues in the letters, that size and the potential noise.
Well, again, if we pull it towards,
Letters negative on this.
we pull it towards the house, it gets it away from the neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
So how should we proceed here? Do we close the hearing, Pam, or do we wait?
Well, are there any other neighbors that like to be heard on this?
Currently, there's no callers on the line.
Okay.
Hi, I'm sorry, I had to unmute. I'm Maria Van. I'm the executive director with the East Hampton Historical Society. I would just be curious to know just how noisy the units are. I just don't know, I'm not familiar with these
Maria,
types of
we have to
units.
swear you in first before you.
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry.
Please state your name and address.
Personal address or work address?
Business, work, fine.
Sure. Maria Van, with East Hampton Historical, 101 Main Street, East Hampton, New York.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
Thank you.
I do. Hi. So we're neighbors as well in a couple of different spaces there by Clinton Academy and Townhouse. I would just want to know, I think like the rest of the group, just, what type of noise output happens from the equipment there, as I'm not familiar with that type of equipment. And that was really the only question we have. We are neighborly as well. I know we share an egress to the property as well. So I would just want that question answered.
Yeah, sure. Hi, Maria. You and I have actually talked a little bit about this in the past, about the project. You and I had a phone conversation a while back. But yeah, so, good question. The pool equipment these days is very quiet, right? Especially with variable speed motors. So I would say that the pool equipment basically creates as much sound as a window air conditioning unit, right? I mean, pretty minimal. And you I'm sure have experience from, other buildings that you're familiar with, that air conditioning outside compressors for central air conditioning systems do have a certain sort of hum to them, but it's not really onerous at all. The only other thing that would kind of affect you guys, I guess, would be, the generator's really far enough away that I don't know that you would really hear it. And again, it only really runs when it's required to be on, and once a week for a 20-minute test.
I would assume the road traffic from Main Street's going to drown out any noise you're going to hear from that generator and or the air conditioning units anyway.
Good point.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Maria.
All right, so do we close the hearing, Pam, or do we?
Mr. Chairman, I have just a question, because I know you have discussed the issue about having work session discussion opportunities subsequent to this meeting. I'm just wondering if Beth, in terms of the how that works in terms of the hearing and the record and our discussions.
Well, I think it depends. If the board wants to see a revised plan with the generator moved to its location before it makes its final determination, then you're going to want to leave the hearing open.
Okay.
I suggest we leave the hearing open without prejudice for that purpose.
I agree. Okay. So
John, I had a quick question. So we want them to group it all together and move it closer to the house and towards the barn, correct?
well, I think we want them to move it south. Closer to the house, but then I don't know how they're going to do that. Well, let them figure that out. Let them come back to us.
Okay, I just wanted to summarize.
Just may I ask a question? So we're really talking about the generator, essentially, right?
Well, I do believe some people wanted the condensers and the pool equipment to be moved also, right, Phil? I mean, that's what you're going.
Yeah. I would like to see it move just a bit. And I'm just thinking because you have to get behind it to service it and everything else. It's pretty.
Okay. All right, so just for those purposes, right? Just
Yeah.
practical purposes.
You're going to landscape, you were saying, and then somebody's going to have to get, to do the landscape and then service the equipment.
Okay.
One, just a further question, just about in terms of what the constraints are in terms of above ground, below ground, what constraints there and requirements are for this kind of unit. I know that there are, the noise issues can be significantly addressed by putting it in a subterranean enclosure that may or may not.
Joe, you're talking about the generator.
Generator, yeah.
Okay.
Because I mean, generators, even the quiet ones, at least that I'm familiar with, when they're on, especially for the test, which goes once a week, or when they're operating, they're pretty noisy.
Well, that's the subject of the letters that we've received.
Right.
I think that the older ones are noisy personally, and I think that maybe you can come back with some kind of plan to have some sounding proof around the generator.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so let me work this out with, the homeowners may actually be willing to give up on having this generator if it really becomes problematic to getting approval on the rest. So let me discuss this with them and with Billy and see what we can come up with in terms of a better plan to either eliminate that generator or move it to a mutually agreeable location. Does that make sense?
That sounds, yes. Okay. So Pam, we'll adjourn this till
January 8th.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ed.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. We'll move on now. Ms. Bennett.
Application of JABR LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-5214.2 for variances from Chapter 278 zoning to construct a 576 square foot detached garage. A 23.3 foot variance is requested from Section 278 3A5A to construct a detached garage 31.7 feet from the front yard lot line, where the required setback is 55 feet, and a variance is requested from Section 278 3A5F to construct a detached garage within the front yard where detached garages are prohibited within a front yard area. The subject property is 57,116 square feet in area and is located at 209 Further Lane in Residence District R80. This project is classified as a Type 2 action in accordance with SEQA.
Is the applicant here?
Good morning, members of the board. Brian DeSessa, attorney for the applicant, 2462 Main Street, Suite 7, Bridgehampton, New York. If I could screen share to walk through the presentation, is that something the board would engage in, or if they've seen everything, I don't have to, whatever your preference is?
I have no preference. I mean, I've been to the location 3 times.
Okay, then.
The board, would they like to screen?
I think it would be great if you could screen share them, just so we.
Yeah, I can. So if I could, that would be easy to walk through for everybody. So I'll do that now. Okay.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, so on your screen is the subject property at 209 Further Lane. It's comprised of an existing house, pool, and improvements. The current applicants acquired the property in 2018 and obtained an updated certificate of occupancy at that time. It's on the corner of Further and Cross Highway. For zoning purposes, making this a lot that has 2 front yards, a front yard on Further and a front yard on Cross. I'll flip back and forth between the survey and some pictures. So we have Further Lane here, we have Cross Highway here, we have the existing house, the existing pool. This area here is where we're proposing a 24 by 24 garage that complies with zoning with respect to height, lot coverages, building coverages, but for the fact that we're locating it in a corner area where 2 front yards are located. The purpose of that is because we have an existing house here on an angle. We have a existing septic area on the northern portion of the property. and it ability to build down here, which keeps in line with the programming of the existing house. It's proposed to be set back 31.7 feet from further lane, where 55 feet is required. We are showing a 58.5 foot setback from cross, as well as maintaining a 10-foot separation from the existing building. So what the applicant has endeavored to do here is move or locate the detached two-car garage as close to the main dwelling as possible, which minimizes the amount of relief that we're asking this board for. In going back to the aerial, you can see that the area is heavily wooded in terms of dense planted vegetation, which will allow for, hold on. Allow for definitive screening. You wouldn't be able to see this from the street. So this is the corner of Further and Cross. Behind these plantings are where we propose this detached two-car garage. The applicant would be willing to file against the property a covenant and restriction to maintain this screening and visual set so that anyone from the public would not be able to see this going forward.
Can I interrupt from that, Brian?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Can I interrupt from that?
Yes, please, at any time.
If you go down across, there is not that kind of coverage. In fact, right now they're clearing in there. So I don't think that from what it looks like right now, when you pass the driveway on Cross Highway, it would be hard not to see that garage and car.
From Cross, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, I was just making the point from Further at that point. I agree with you. I'm sorry?
I know.
I was going to get to that.
Let's let Brian finish his.
All right.
There will be proposed additional screening there. However, you're from Cross through the driveway. Yes, the point I was making is this from the corner, which is located here, and Further, which is a more traveled roadway. The point being, you would not see it from there. From Cross Highway, because of where the driveway is, there will be parts of it which you could see. However, in locating the garage on this side of the property, it's the farthest away from any neighboring property. So we've located a building that's 20 feet in height, farthest away from any neighboring property or residential property, and screened from Further lane. It's our position that the granting of this variance would not affect the character of the community from an aesthetic standpoint, as detached garages are common throughout the village. Again, let me bring up the proposed garage, as you see here, as your front and rear elevation. So we have the garage, the two-car garage, a decorative pergola across the front, meeting compliant with height requirements. I have all the elevations if the board wishes to see that. There is currently no garage on the property, so the applicant here is endeavoring to put a two-car garage on a property where there is no garage. So the area basically having an existing house, having two front yards, makes this the only location where the applicant could place a two-car garage and still achieve the goals. While numerically the relief requested is it could be quantified as somewhat large, in the totality of the circumstance, which is what I'd asked the board and the board is directed to do, locating a two-car garage in this portion of the property would have minimal or no impact on the community, on any residential neighbors or otherwise. With respect to an adverse impact in terms of environmental factors, point 4 of the board's test, we're not adding any residential uses. We're not adding any additional flow for septic. That there will be dry wells to catch rainwater runoff for any roof structures. So it's a project neutral from an environmental standpoint with respect to how this would work. And I would say here that the self-difficulty, this selfly created hardship is not, but is rather necessitated by the applicant having two front yards, by the house already existing, and the programming be set up. If this was a vacant lot and the applicant was coming before you, there would be feasible alternatives to locate a house and a garage. However, here, due to the fact that the property has 2 front yards, due to the fact that the property has already been developed, this is makes the most sense and the logical location to site this garage with screening. And if the board thought, as Mr. Humphrey raised, additional screening was needed, the applicant would be open to that and continuous screening if necessary. It would note houses are substantially higher. This garage being at 20 feet is reduced, is permitted under zoning. And my point being, it being set back from further where there's more screening and from cross to the conforming line, with that being 55 feet, a 20-foot building set 55 feet back plus screening in the middle is going to be hardly noticeable from cross. I'm happy to answer any questions or circle back through any of the pictures or elements that the board may request.
All right, let's see if are there any neighbors that wish to be heard on this?
There are no callers on the line.
Okay, thank you. Billy, any comments from you?
No, I have nothing to add.
Okay, thanks, Billy. Phil, you want to take us away on this? Or?
Yeah, sure. Let me run through this. Thank you for your presentation, Brian. It's very thorough. Whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to the nearby properties will be created by granting the area variance. I believe it will. The village code was amended to not allow garages in the front yard because they were producing an undesirable change in neighborhoods. So that was amended several years ago. The fact that it's blocked from view, I don't find particularly relevant. I know others do. Whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. I recognize that the sanitary system is in the northern portion of the lot, but you could swing your driveway around. You could be between the house and the yoga studio, behind the yoga studio. So there's several conforming locations without it being in the front yard and without having to get an area variance. The area variance, it's 45%. I think that's substantial coming off of further there when you talk about it in terms of the amount of feet you need. Also having the garage in the front yard, I think is a substantial variance. Whether it'll have a proposed adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood. I think on the physical, yes, both the amount of the variance and having the garage in the front yard. And as you know, it also sets a precedent that could change the face of the village by allowing garages in the front yard. Whether the difficulty was self-created, when they bought the property, it had 2 front yards and it had no garage. And those setbacks haven't changed since then. So I do think that this is self-created, although that's not just the only test. And as I said, this is not the minimum variance necessary. There are conforming locations to place the garage. Those are my thoughts.
All right, thanks, Phil. Craig, do you have anything?
Yeah, Phil's identification of the places where you could put the garage out by the yoga studio is, I never really looked carefully at the setbacks before, but that would be a very good one. And they're working on this property right now and they're clearing the area. There's a gate between the house and the proposed garage that's being taken down. And that area is being opened up, which would make the possibility of putting the driveway to go around the back of the house toward the yoga studio or someplace up in the northern part, northwestern part of that property might work. And I really don't think that I am at all in favor of a garage either on the front corner of the house or on the front of the house, period. It's not in conforming with the rules of the road here. And you're gonna see a garage and car no matter how much you cover it, I think, because you've got to get into the garage. You put it back here by the yoga studio, it's not going to be a problem.
Thank you. Joe?
I'm sympathetic to the comments that have been made. I have 2 questions. One is, just for the purpose of, and this is a question, I guess, to Beth or to Billy, so there are already some, I guess, I'm not sure if they're pre-existing or how they're be termed accessory structures. How do those factor into the calculation? Is the total area for accessory structures on the property, is that met, or are those existing accessory structures excluded? I'm not sure I understand how that calculation is made. Just I was curious in terms of just reviewing the codes.
So the allowable accessory building floor area or gross floor area for all accessory buildings is cumulative. So you add them all together, and the applicant survey does contain calculations for their existing accessory buildings and those that are proposed. And they do demonstrate that they would be in compliance with the overall allowable accessory building floor area.
Thank you. And the other, are there any other structures along further lane? I'm not familiar with anything that's this close that cuts into that front yard area. Just wondering if there are any precedents for this kind of a new construction intrusion along in the front yard along any further lane anywhere in the village.
I don't know.
Oh, sorry. I can't answer. I didn't conduct a study like that, so it would be hard for me to, answer the question accurately. I don't know. I could look into it for you if you'd like.
Ask the attorney if that's
okay.
The village has granted previous relief from the zoning board for garages to be located in the front yard. I don't know if they're on further lane. I can circle back with a written submission to the board with respect to further lane.
Just going in terms of community character. Thank you.
Jimmy, you have anything to add?
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
And I believe I'd like to have the planning board look at this also. I believe there's 2 driveways here which aren't permitted.
We've, Mr. Chairman, we've submitted a letter. We're addressing that with the planning board at this time.
Yeah, I'd like to send this to the planning board and have them look at it. I don't know if can we do that? Is that?
You can
Okay.
request comments from the planning board, yeah.
Yes, some comments from the planning board before we move forward on any of this, to be honest with you. That's what, I propose. All right, so we're not going to close this hearing. We're going to keep it open.
January 8th.
Okay.
Is that enough time to hear from the planning board? That would be my only question. I'm happy to have my stuff ready by the 8th.
Is that enough time for the planning board?
No.
No, because the planning
No.
board just met,
The 14th.
right,
Okay, so we'll have to put it, it'll be
February.
okay.
I had one other question.
Go ahead.
If you attach it to the house, do you go over your GFA for the house?
I could check that out. I believe that may be the situation, but I can confirm that for you when I come back.
Hey, Brian, this is David Lerner.
Oh, David, hold on one second. They got to just swear you in if you want to say something.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
State your name and address.
David Lerner, 209 Further Lane, East Hampton.
Do you swear to tell the truth? Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you for letting me speak to the board and appreciate your time. And I've been listening intently as this is my first experience with this. So with respect to the question about attaching, we looked at that and we do not have the square footage available to do that. We've looked at locating the garage at all the possible locations that would not require a variance. And there really was no real desirable place to put it. It does, clearly we did purchase the home as it's situated with 2 front yards. And the reason for wanting it located here is so that we don't have to disturb the existing home. We have a renovation that's been permitted that we have commenced. That gate that has been taken down that was referenced is going back up. It was taken down temporarily to get equipment into the backyard. as we improve the property. The reason for wanting to locate the garage where it is so that we don't have to really disturb the main house. I think it would be within our rights, and I think my architect is also listening. It could be sworn in and verify this, but it's my belief that we could alter the footprint of the main house and put an attached garage and recreate the home. But it was the view of my builder and the architect that we would be making much more disturbance of the property itself. As you look at the proposed location from Further Lane, you will not be able to see this at all. And as you go down Cross Highway, because there's screening on the circular, the two curb cuts, you won't really be able to see this garage. I think it will look better than having lots of cars parked in the driveway. And we also do have embrace an electric vehicle. We need a place to be able to charge that vehicle. We were hoping to be able to do that in this garage. So that's really, we don't really have a place for storage, and we're trying to make it as beautiful as possible and to improve the neighborhood. So we respect and appreciate all of your time. I hope my comments have been helpful to give you perspective, and we would appreciate the approval as requested. But as Brian DeSesta has said, if there's additional screening or modifications that would make it more palatable for you, we'd be happy to consider making those changes. Unless there are questions for me, that's all I wanted to add. Thank you.
Happy holidays. Stay safe.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll put it off now until the planning of this.
February 12th.
Okay. All right. So we'll move on to the next hearing.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Pam?
Yes, application of Maidstone Club, Inc., Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-9310 and 11 and 301-9411 and 17 for wetlands permit, special permit, and variances in accordance with Chapter 278 zoning and Chapter 163 freshwater wetlands to conduct maintenance activities and to cut vegetation within wetlands and adjacent to wetlands. A freshwater wetlands permit and variances are required in accordance with Chapter 163 and Section 278-3A5 to conduct maintenance activities, including but not limited to repair of irrigation and drainage systems, leveling tee boxes, smoothing and grading cart paths, aerating and seeding, regrading and resodding damaged areas, cutting phragmites and cutting native and non-native vegetation within wetlands and adjacent to wetlands, and any other relief necessary. A special permit is requested in accordance with Section 278-7D for alterations to a membership club. The property's combined area is approximately 122.87 acres and are located at 88 Dunmere Lane, 90 Dunmere Lane, 95 Dunmere Lane, and 50 West Dune Lane. The properties are located in residence districts R80 and R160 in flood zone AE elevation 10 and adjacent to the East Hampton Village Historic District. This project is classified as an unlisted action in accordance with SEQA.
Drew?
Let me swear you in, Drew.
Sure.
Raise your right hand, state your name and address.
This is Drew Bennett. My address is 3 Railroad Avenue, East Hampton, New York.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, good morning, board members. My name is Drew Bennett, and I'm here on behalf of the Maidstone Club. And with me somewhere online is John Genovese with Maidstone Club. He is the supervisor of the golf course, as well as Ken Koch, who's the general manager of Maidstone Club. We seek a freshwater wetland permit to perform maintenance to an existing golf course. The course has existed since 1895, and most of it is within wetlands jurisdiction. The New York State DEC has issued a freshwater wetlands permit for the same scope of work that we had before you this morning. And that permit is a maintenance permit, and it's good for 10 years. And we've submitted a copy of that to the board. There are a set of plans. I don't know if you want to go through them and how we would go through them. This is my first East Hampton Village ZBA Zoom meeting, so I don't know if they're available on, if your board puts them up and you want me to walk through them. If not, I will try to describe them as best I can. I assume they're in front of you. So they're not available online to share. Is that correct?
I don't know how to do that.
Fine. Okay. So there are 7 drawings that were submitted, and Pam summarized concisely the scope of work that we're talking about, but I'll bring your attention to 2 of the plans. I think they're the most important. Drawing C1 is the first page, and on drawing C1 there is an outlined scope of work of the type of maintenance activities that are proposed, and Pam had just summarized those. And you'll see on the drawing that there are 3 types of hatched areas. There's a green hatch, and then there's some little small red hatch areas, and then toward the right side of the page there's some gray hatch. So in the green hatch areas, that's basically general maintenance, and that's outlined on the left-hand side of the page, basically routine activities that are performed to maintain this existing golf course. And then there's the red hatch areas are basically areas that we will that the course maintains pruning of existing vegetation to a height of 4 feet. And in the gray hatch area, which is along the northern shoreline of Hook Pond and adjacent to the 16th fairway and the 17th tee, which is basically, you can see that from the bridge on Dewmere Lane to give you some reference. There is some proposed pruning of existing woody shrubs, as well as pruning of grasses and sedges. That's an outline of what the scope of work is. I know Billy Hajak has visited the site, and I'm sure he'll have a report for you for the board members, and I'm happy to answer any questions at this time if you have any detailed questions.
Okay, thanks.
Specifics.
Thanks, Drew. Do we have anybody from the public that would like to speak? Any neighbors?
We have no callers on the phone.
Okay, great. Billy's been over there, I think, several times. I've been over there with Billy. Billy, can you just give us a comment on this application?
Sure. Good morning, Billy Hajak. So as Drew described, I would say 90 or 95% of the work is I would call routine maintenance and work that the club has been conducting periodically for a long period of time, or many years. My focus or locus of interest was really on the separate plan C, which Drew labeled C7, and that is the area along the 16th green or 16th fairway and 17th green. And through the course of multiple meetings and discussions with the applicants and Drew, I think the plan has been refined to the point where it's changed from the original submission. I believe the work the new work that I think is new, which is cutting of some vegetation, has been refined, and I believe the work is being mitigated to my satisfaction. Where some vegetation is being cut, that vegetation will be replaced with new shrubs and new shrubbery. I don't think there's any loss of significant woody vegetation, and they are preserving or attempting to preserve some of the mature woody vegetation. And I think that's crucial where we have a situation where much of the course has been manipulated. Most of the shoreline around Hook Pond that is owned or managed by the course is pretty heavily managed. And, my objective in this review is trying to maintain some semblance of a naturalized, buffer between the course and, Hook Pond, just for water quality purposes and wildlife purposes. And I think that the revised plan that was just submitted, I believe it would accomplish that goal. So if the board has any specific questions for me about it, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Billy, the DEC issued them a 10-year permit. I mean, do we issue a permit? Are you talking about a 4-year?
So the village code, the permits that the village issues for, which this would fall under more of the guise of, either restoration, I guess you'd call it like a wetland restoration or a maintenance project. The code limits them to 4-year permits. So my suggestion would be that the board, if you were to approve this, would be to condition it on, 4 years, and then after the end of 4 years, they could resubmit either the same plan or a revised plan, and we could reevaluate. The village at that point can reevaluate, how things are working, what isn't working. That would be my suggestion.
Well, that's great. And we have enough to write a determination if the board is in agreement with what we have here?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I would just have to do a secret declaration for you for the next meeting.
Okay. Any board members have any comment on this?
I just like to,
Go ahead.
First of all, thank you to Billy and to the club for working to find the appropriate balance. Obviously, both the natural environmental quality and the preservation and continuing operations and maintenance of a nationally important resource in terms of the Maidstone Golf Course are both important to the character of the village. And so it's great that there's been a successful back and forth. Question regarding just the Hook Pond environmental conditions. Obviously, the ponds in the village have been had some real water quality issues over the last several years or even decades. And I guess the question is, in addition to what's happening with the Maidstone's operation, are there other issues involving? What are the contributing factors to what's happening with water quality in Hook Pond, as far as you are aware?
That's a pretty big question.
I know it's broad.
So there's multiple factors that contribute to the water quality of Hook Pond. And Drew, please feel free to step in and help me or correct me. I think the primary, so the village had conducted a study. An engineer, Pio Lombardo, had done a study for Hook Pond about 6 years ago, I think it is now, or 7 years ago. And what the conclusion of that study was phosphorus being one of the primary issues with water quality. Nitrogen is also an issue with the pond, but phosphorus being the overarching or the main problem with the water quality. And that may or may not be leading to the blue-green algae outbreaks. That plus water temperature, lack of flushing. There's multiple things. So the sources of phosphorus, it's in the sediment, and it's a reoccurring problem because it's trapped in the sediments. But other contributors of phosphorus primarily are stormwater runoff, septic influences, applications of fertilizer, and things of that nature. And so what the village has been doing to try to correct that problem, we've since recently mandated installation of innovative alternative septic systems. That's supposed to be a key nitrogen and phosphorus reduction tool. We've done a number of projects to attack stormwater and abate stormwater before it enters the pond, or treat it before it enters the pond. And one of the big ticket items that the village is about to partake in is the cleaning out or the excavation of Town Pond. And that's supposed to that's the idea is that that is a source of phosphorus and sediments. And the idea is that we're going to increase the volume of Town Pond so that there's more settling of stormwater runoff before it actually makes its way into Hook Pond. So that's kind of it in a big, I don't know if I answered your question.
No, thank you. That's it.
Yeah.
Trying to just understand what's happening in the broader context.
Yeah. So stormwater runoff seems to be the biggest key, that and fertilizer and septic use. So.
Right, thanks, Billy. Make a motion to close this hearing.
I'll move.
Motion.
Get a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Business out there? Okay, make a motion to close the meeting.
Make a motion.
Second, please.
Second.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Thank you. Have a nice holiday.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.